ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So today inshallah ta'ala we'll start on Ayatul Kursi, which is found at the beginning of the third para in Surah Baqarah. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو. This is a ayah that we repeatedly recite, usually when we're going to sleep or for the sake of protection or something of that nature. And we need to maybe spend some time going over the meaning of the ayah so that we understand it better. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah, there is no deity worthy of worship except Him. So when we say ilaha or anything which is ilah is anything which we consider to be a god. Anything that we dedicate or consider him or it to be superior to us. To such an extent that this being that we've taken as a god is so superior to us that it possesses skills that we don't have. So that's normally how we understand what a god is. It's different than us, superior than us, better than us, stronger than us, can impact on our lives, can do something to our lives, can benefit us, can harm us. We have to have that mindset whenever we take any being as a god. So whenever we take a thing or a being to have those qualities, then in essence we are making that thing our god. So if, for example, money, if we feel money will benefit us, the lack of money will harm us, having money, if we do that, then we're making money as the god. If there's potentially a powerful person in the community or our employer, and we feel that that person can give us success or can give us failure, or having the good connection with that person is good for us, then in the same way we have made that person as a god. Do you not recall when Ibrahim ﷺ was having the debate with Nimrud? What did he say? He said that I can give life and I can give death. Because his argument was that I should be worshipped. I'm powerful, I can destroy your life, I can make your life. Why do you not worship me? So Ibrahim ﷺ responds by saying that giving life and giving death is a measure of that. So the king then decides, he calls two people that are both on the death sentence in his prison, and he says, okay, you're free, and he says, execute that person. So he's trying to demonstrate to him that look, these are godly characteristics. Until Ibrahim ﷺ says to him that my Rabb, he brings the sun to rise from the east, you make it rise from the west. Do something else. At that point, obviously, he cannot do that. Similarly, the main issue that Fir'aun had when Musa ﷺ came to him is that Fir'aun considered himself to be God. Fir'aun said, I'm more powerful, I can bring good to you, I can bring bad to you, I should be worshipped. So his main issue that he had with Musa ﷺ was that his divinity, as he perceived it, was being challenged. That his godship was being challenged. And he, in a strange way, he was seeing Musa ﷺ as setting up partners with him. You see the irony in this. Instead of like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't do shirk, don't set up partners with me, Fir'aun was of the view that Musa ﷺ was setting up partners with him. That's how arrogant he had become. So we see these examples that have existed in the history of time, and we see similar examples that when a person becomes arrogant, when a person becomes self-sufficient, then this starts to bring this attitude of power and godliness. There's reasons why, for example, insurance is illegal in the Sharia, haram. There are things like, for example, riba, gharar, waghaira, waghaira. But this is not a dars of Kitabul Buyu, so I won't mention that here. But philosophically, insurance has other problems. Okay? philosophically, insurance has other problems in that people feel themselves free from Allah. When we put CCTV outside our house, and when we have a top-notch system, how many of us do tawakkul in Allah? And how many of us do tawakkul on our CCTV? How many of us do tawakkul on our alarm system? When you have car insurance fully comp, do you make the dua when you sit in the car that, Ya Allah, protect my car and protect me? You're not too bothered, because if you hit the car, you're getting fully comp, you're getting paid out. In fact, some of us don't mind hitting our car because car's getting a bit old now. We might actually get paid out a lot more. So the other philosophical issue that we have is this thing of becoming independent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This also happens in the world of medicine. That once we get too kind of worked up and excited about how clever we are in terms of producing medicine, then we think the cure is in the medicine. Then we disconnect from Allah and we say that there is, the medicine is my cure. We don't ask Allah and take the medicine. On that point, once I've just mentioned something to me about how some of us may be misunderstanding contagious diseases within the Sharia. There's a narration, I pulled it up, that's what I was looking for before I started, in which the Prophet of Allah ﷺ is reported to have said, لا عدوى ولا طيرة ويعجبني الفعل قال وما الفعل قال كلمة طيبة. Another narration, لا عدوى ولا طيرة ولا هامة ولا سفر. And numerous narrations along that sort of ilk. Adwa refers to contagious diseases. Tira is regarding a bird in particular, the manner in which work. Hamma, certain creatures. What this is all based on, and is sometimes misunderstood, is that this is based on beliefs. That a person believes that a contagious disease has a power of its own. Meaning without the will of Allah, a contagious disease will spread. Okay? There's no need for the will of Allah, it will spread biologically, naturally. An example would be that if one of us sat in this room now, had a flu, and he sneezed, then according to those who believe in the actual disease spreading freely, would mean that everybody in this room would get it. However, we know that everybody in this room won't get it. Some will get it, others won't. The reason that this hadith came was to remove away the aqidah of people that they thought things just happened without the will of Allah. Everything happens by the will of Allah. Lekin, we use the biological understanding we have that diseases can spread from one to another. That's a fact. The Prophet of Allah has reported that when there is an illness in a particular area, then do not leave that area. Why is he saying that? If he's saying that this would not spread anyway. There's la adwa. Okay. Similarly, if you know that there's a particular waba in an area, don't go into that area. Why? Because you're going to catch it. So we don't just take individual ahadith and report them and give a fiqhi position on it, or an aqidah position on it. To give positions is the job of ulama. We can narrate a hadith for fadail. There's nothing wrong in narrating hadith, even though narrating hadith is a very loose term I've used there, because you have to have sanad to narrate hadith. So if I've heard hadith from my ustad, then my ustad heard it from his ustad, who's heard it from his ustad, who's heard it from his ustad, that goes all the way up to the Prophet of Allah. It's not started in hadith. It's not started in hadith. So I've been given ijazah to narrate hadith, whether Bukhari, Tirmizi, Ibn Majah, Nasai, all ulama who graduate from Darul Ulooms, they have been given ijazah to narrate hadith. So we can narrate them. But similarly, those who've studied, specialized in fiqh, studied ifta, waghaira, then we are in a position, especially those who study further, to be able to then give the understanding, the fiqhi understanding of hadith. That's why people say, should I read Bukhari, Mufti Sahib, should I recite it? I said, look, you will come across a hadith, and you may not pray like that, and you may think, scratch your head, hold on. There's a hadith in Bukhari which says, La salata illa bi fatihatil kitab. Imam Sahib says that behind the Imam don't recite Fatiha. What's going on here? Is Imam Sahib lying to me? You're going to get confused. You will see that in Bukhari there may be a hadith in Rafal Yadayn that the Prophet ﷺ raised his hands. You will see the Ahnaf don't raise their hands except for Takbir Tahrimi. So you get confused. Why is it that we'd only raise it for here? We don't. So this is going to bring more confusion, not knowledge. No, knowledge is like you trying to take medicine by going to the raw materials. If you don't know how to make paracetamol, are you just going to go and say, okay, I'll take a couple of milligrams of this, couple of milligrams, and just chuck it in your mouth and hope that is paracetamol? No. You will go to a pharmacist and you will say your illness, that I have this pain or this, that, and the other, whatever, and they will give you the medicine. In the same way, it was the fuqaha's job to take the nusus, the Quran, the hadith, understand them how they understood. They were mujtahid mutlaq. Then they put this down in text. We then study Quduri, if we have Hanafis obviously. I don't expect the Shafis to study Quduri or the Malikis or whatever. I'm not that hardcore. So as Hanafi, we'll study Quduri or we'll study Hidayah or whatever we will study, so that we have the Zahiru Riwayah, which is the madhab. And we give fatwa according to the madhab. So when we're trying to understand such a technical hadith as La Adwa wa La Tira, we cannot take an isolated hadith and just apply a hukam on this hadith, because the first thing we have to do is say, right, if this is the topic about contagious diseases, is there anything in the Quran which speaks about contagious diseases? Now unless you're Hafiz of Quran, you won't know that. And even if you're Hafiz of Quran, if you don't understand the Quran, you're not going to know that. So the person has to have expertise on the Quran. That's the first thing. So he must be a mufassir. Once he has expertise on the Quran, then he comes to a hadith. They say a faqih must be a muhaddith. A muhaddis used to be somebody who was to memorize 100,000 to 250,000 hadith. Bis sanad. Memorize. We memorize two and, we're high-fiving each other and say, whoa, alhamdulillah. 100 to 250,000. So that you know that are there any other ahadith that speak about this particular topic. So that I can gather all them together. Then you must explore the opinions of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in and Tabi'in. How did they understand and how did they put into practice what the Prophet ﷺ said? Because they understood it far better, because they were embedded there. They were there with the Prophet of Allah. They saw in what context he was applying this, what was going on. So this takes years. This takes years. And now we become a bit loose with our tongues. And we can say, we forward, like, for example, a hadith, or we think it's a hadith, it's in English, but it says Bukhari at the bottom, so it must be. And we just forward it. How do you know this is hadith? Just because it says Bukhari at the bottom. Have you checked? Have you gone through all Bukhari to find this hadith? Then it's an English translation, Imam Bukhari wrote in Arabic. How do you know this is an accurate translation? To narrate hadith, because that's what we're doing when we forward hadith, this is narration, you must have isnad. Otherwise it comes to that person who has no isnad is ahadul kadibain, is one of the two liars. Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu min an-nar. That person who lies against me intentionally, then let him take his place in Jahannam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that. When you quote hadith, you're saying qala Rasulullah, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Whenever they would ask the companions that ma qala Rasulullah, they would shiver. As soon as they would say qala, they would shiver, because I say something that he didn't say. Yawm al-Qiyamah, give me my bucket. We're quoting, the Prophet said this, the Prophet said that. God says this, Allah said this. These are very, very important matters. They are not what we call market talk. That you just say in a market. This is absolutely essential. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, when he used to write a hadith, he used to make ghusl, wudu. He used to make wudu before he would sit down and write it. Every single one. So now, as I said, because it's just become like this social media thing has its benefits, of course, mashallah. We spread our message more, but it has a lot more that has problems with it. A lot of problems. It loses all adab, all etiquettes. You get nobody's calling out ulama. The person, he doesn't know how to make istinja in the summer, or whether there's a different way to do istinja in the summer than there is istinja in the winter when you're a bloke. You see, many of you will be scratching your heads. Is there a different way? Do I make istinja differently? in the summer compared to the way in winter, depending on the male anatomy, when it's warm and it's cold, how his body is. I'll leave it at that because there's young people around. So there's a different way to do istinja. So they don't know how to do that, and they say, oh, what's this mufti saying about this? What's this sheikh saying about this? What's this? Be'wakuf. So we are very, very careful when we say Qala Rasulullah or Qala Allah Ta'ala. So when we start, so this narration that is referred to, this is saying that those people who believed that there is no effect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plays a part in. This is the belief that Rasulullah wanted to remove. So for example, when there was a camel that started to get scabies, they would say, Ya Rasulullah, should we remove that camel from there because this will spread? So the Prophet of Allah realized that maybe this is in the aqidah of the Sahabi, that he thinks that just by them being next to each other, this is going to spread. So he said, how did the first camel get scabies? Like, how did the first person get coronavirus? Who did he get it from? So this is what he's trying to say is, Allah is the means. You have to believe that. But then obviously we are men of intellect. That clearly is proven that if we interact with one another, if our saliva is moved, if we touch each other and one of us has got the virus and then that person puts it in his mouth, then he's going to get it. He's going to contract it. That's been proven. So thus we take all that into consideration, and what the Prophet of Allah is saying, don't let it affect your aqidah. His aqidah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is involved in all of this. So when the rain comes down and the plants grow, do we say the rain made the plants grow? No, we say Allah made the plants grow, but He used this sabab. Okay? When we, eat and we're satisfied, do we say the food made me satisfied? We say, no, Allah was the razik. Yeah, so this is all about aqidah. Don't get confused about the practicalities. And we know the famous hadith, do you leave your camel? And just think, so when you're going out your house, do you leave all your doors open and say, well, chalo, some guy's going to steal, he's going to steal anyway, even if I live in Fort Knox, or do you lock your doors? All right. Why do you lock your doors for? Because if you're going to get robbed, you're going to get robbed anyway, and if you're not going to get robbed, you're not going to get robbed. Obviously, you have the akal to know that, I'm going to lock my door. When you have your car, do you park it in the darkest place and leave all the doors open and say, nice system, and I'll put some money in the boot as a sign and say, look, if Allah's going to protect it, He'll protect it no matter what? You don't, do you? You take all the safety precautions. You might park it under light, you'll bug it, whatever. But at the end of the day, even if you put that car in a concrete block, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it for it to be stolen, it will get stolen. So it's the aqidah. This is what the hadith is referring to. Don't believe in I think there's a phrase in it that you walk under a ladder, you lose 7 years of your life or something, is it? No, is that something else? Or you get bad luck. Or is it you break a mirror, you get 7 years of... There's something, isn't there? Don't look at me like that. Surely are there not phrases like that? That you smash a mirror, is it 7 years of bad luck or something? And if you walk under a ladder, is it bad luck or something? That's what he's saying. Now, it might be that when the person who came up with that phrase is every time somebody walks under the ladder, something fell on his head. So he thought, let me come up with something. It's bad luck to walk under a ladder. But that shouldn't be our aqidah that every time we walk under a ladder, we're going to get bad luck. But logically, it's not clever walking under a ladder because the bloke who's working at the top, if he's working with slates or tiles or a brick, it's going to fall on your head. So that's how we need to distinguish the two. But the more important is the issue I mentioned at the beginning. Leave the qualified work for the qualified ulama. I know ulama who got 10, 20, 30 years of experience and they even know the answer. And they will consult another scholar. They know the answer. I know they know the answer. They will consult another scholar. Why? Because always ihtiyat. Always careful. I say something to this brother and it's wrong. Always careful. But like I said, it's now become like a market, where no one is even asking us and we want to give an answer. The brother is looking over here saying, brother, no, I know. We're pushing ourselves forward. Amal is not there, but everybody knows the answers. Anyway, let's return to this. Allahu la ilaha illahu. So the first thing we're trying to establish is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He is the only real deity. He then explains why He is the only real deity. Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. The first thing is, He is the ever-living. Meaning, He does not die. Okay, He's the ever-living. Al-Hayy. For eternity. Since before time until after time. For anything, person, or anybody that's going to claim to be a God, he must have this trait. Al-Qayyum, the ever-existing. These are qualities, meaning he's not affected by time. He's not impacted by time. These things don't impact on him. Similarly, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Sleep or slumber does not overtake. Those of us who've been staying in the masjid, you know, as hard as we've tried, and you know, we're all tough, strong men, bar some of us. The rest of us are all tough, strong men. There's a few old, weak men amongst us as well. But you know, we can go 10, 15 hours without sleep, 18 hours without sleep, 24 hours without sleep. Trust me, get into day 2, get into day 3, you don't even know your own name anymore. People say, what's pray Fatiha, and you don't even know how to pray Fatiha. You can't even remember Fatiha anymore. That's within a 2 to 3 days. Yet, you could be the size of a barn house. Huge person. At that particular time, my eyes fell on someone and he's smiling. So I didn't mean it at you, officer. It just so happened I was looking across there. Coincidence. Yeah. So basically, and what that also means is that there's no change. Okay, there's no change. Consistency. When you're affected, your body is affected, it needs food, it needs water, it needs sleep, then it's not consistent. You know how ratty and moody sometimes we get? You know, when we're tired? Okay, sometimes we're in such a good mood, you know, the family are like, okay, what happened to this guy? You know? And all the time we're in such a bad mood, we go away, I'm not talking to whatever. We're not consistent. Okay, up and down, depending on what's going on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is consistent. He does not get tired. He does not need to be fed. Then He shows His power of ownership. So one is Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. Okay, ever living, sleep, slumber. The third one is dominion, kingdom, milkiyat. Lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. For Him is in everything in the skies and everything in and on the earth. We have been mentioning after Fajr all sorts of remarkable creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? If you missed it, that's a shame, but try not to miss today's or tomorrow's or whatever day is, Fajr, whenever it is, tomorrow. Right? Don't miss that, because we've only got a few left now. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if you're getting the messages, the videos, mashallah, a brother who will go unmentioned at this moment in time, has been working extra hard, sleepless nights, to make sure that these videos go up within an instant after they're finished. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward him. Ameen. I won't say who the brother is. So, I didn't say who the brother was, did I? Did I say his name? Did anyone hear me say his name? No, there you go. So, I was true to my word. Man dhal ladhi yashfa'u innahu illa bi'idhni. So now that we've established there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, we've established He is Al-Hayy, the ever-living, we've established He is the eternal, we've established that He does not get tired or fatigue or anything like that at all. We've established for Him the dominion and the kingdom. Now we realize, hold on a second here, so what we've been chasing has been wrong. What we've been going after has been wrong. What we should, instead of going after the effects, we should have been going after the cause. Okay? If your tap is on, full, and somehow your sink is blocked, and the water is coming out, and if you're spending your time mopping up the water, is this akal kam or is this beakal? What is this? Is this sensible? No. Because what's happening over there? That tap is running, and that tap's going to continue to run, and you're going to continue to do this forever. So when we go for things, we go for the result. We chase the money, we chase the health, we chase this, which is mopping the floor. What we don't forget is, let's go to the asal. The one that is making the water spill on the floor. The one that's made me ill. Allah. He's the one I'm supposed to be going to. In our kind of day-to-day example is the tap. I need to switch the tap off first before I do anything. And then it says, Man dhalladhi yashfa'u indahu illa bi'idhnih. Then whoever wants to intercede, which clearly shows that we will need intercession, that we're going to be in trouble, we're going to come up short. So on the day of judgment, we're going to come up short. We're not going to have enough. We're in trouble now. We're going to have to need to rely on people. Whether it's the Anbiya, whether it's the ulama, whether it's the pious predecessors, the Salaf, those we looked up to in the dunya, we're going to go beg them. But they're only going to be allowed to intercede illa bi'idhnihi, if Allah gives permission. يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ. He knows that which is in front of them and that which is behind them. Meaning, to him, it's the normal plane. There's no such thing as time. He sees everything as it is. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. And nothing can encompass him, perceive him, understand him, except when he wills. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And his kursi is spread across the heavens and the earth. And whenever we come to terms like this, okay, this becomes, and I ain't got time now to start teaching Aqidah as well, is how do we translate the word kursi here? Do we say that this is a chair? And if we say it's a chair, what does that mean with respect to Allah? And it gets very deep. Okay? So the best position that the ulama advocate is to do ta'wil. Yani his power of dominion is over the heavens and the earth. وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا. And it does not tie him to safeguard them. How many times have you looked up into the sky and you've seen a tear? You know, mashallah, this masjid is very well looked after. But you know, every now and then you're going to see a small cut in the suspended ceiling. Every now and then the bulb is going to need changing in the lights. Every now and then the air conditioning is going to pack in. Every now and then a leak's going to make its way and get that little brown stain that you always get on your suspended ceiling. Look how small this ceiling is. How big is the ceiling of the world? Where's the crack there? Where's the this there? Where's the other there? Allah SWT looks after it all the time. And here we can't even hold up this building without the use of three pillars there, a wall there which acts, and a wall at the back. So this ensures that the ceiling can be held. Otherwise, you remove these pillars, what's going to happen? It's going to collapse in. Do we see any pillars holding up the skies around us? وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ. And he is the Almighty, the High and the Great. Once that is recited, then even after all that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. Meaning, those people are free to choose to believe in Allah or not to believe in Allah. Even when they choose not to believe in Allah, He will still give them rizq, He will still give them water, He will still give them the sky, He will still give them oxygen, He will still give them a heart, He'll give them everything He's given to the believers, even though they deny His existence. But He still gives them the choice of whether they wish to believe in Him or not believe in Him. No compulsion at all. Again, when we start to interpret into our own verses, people now will say, oh, this actually applies to Muslims as well. This is, you see, when you start becoming a so-called mufassir, that actually la ikraha fi din means that you can't force me to do things in religion. Everything is by choice. This is referring to those people when you're coming into deen, not when you are in deen. Meaning you have a free choice, but once you accept the terms, you must accept everything else that comes with it. Then Allah SWT mentions قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. Allah SWT has already made clear the right guidance from the deviation. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدِ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. Those who deny the taghut, the devil, the demons, the taghut, those false deities that we make ourselves, our ego, our money, our status, whatever it is, and they believe in Allah, then they have grasped the firm hold. لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. اللَّهُ وَلِيُّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. Allah is the wali of those people who believe. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we're all walis now. MashaAllah. That didn't take long, did it? Just a couple of dars after Asr, a couple of fajrs, and wilayat tak pahunch gaya. Ameen. So, waliyul ladina. Allah SWT says He is the wali for the believers. So once we are true believers, Allah is saying He's our wali. He says it here, Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. What does He do? Yukhrijuhum min al-dhulumati ila an-nur. Those again who study Arabic will know dhulumat is in the plural. Zulumat is in the plural, but nur is in the singular. So there are many false paths, but there's only one true path. There are many false paths, but there's only one true path. Allah SWT will take them out from these false paths towards the nur. However, as for those who kafaru, awliya'uhum at-taghut, they have taken friends and protectors, the deities that they've taken. They've taken them as their friend. They've taken money as their friend. They've taken status as their friend. They've taken ego as their friend. They've taken these as their compatriots. What do? يُخْرِجُونَهُمْ مِنَ النُّورِ. They take you out of the light. Where do they take you? إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ, to the darkness. And where is the result for that? أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. They, for them is they will become the citizens of Jahannam, and they will stay in there for eternity. And like I mentioned to you, and this is how the Quran works. So we had Ayatul Kursi first, then we have the discussion taking place between Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. أَلَمْ تَرَ الَّذِي حَاجَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ فِي رَبِّهِ أَنْ أَتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكِ إِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّيَ الَّذِي يُحْيِي وَيُمِيتُ قَالَ أَنَا أُحْيِي وَأُمِيتُ. Okay, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam says, my Rabb is one who gives life and gives death. He says, I do that. I'm a king. أَنَا أُحْيِي وَأُمِيتُ. قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب. So what happens? فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. Gunga ho gaya. He didn't know what to say. Wallahu la yahdil qawm az-zalimin. And Allah SWT does not guide. Wallahu la yahdil. Allah SWT does not guide the oppressing people. And we'll stop there inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.